Good morning. I'm Bill Barrows, your congenial host of Talkin Sports with my sidekicks, Luke McClure, Rick Harness, Jim Landrum, and today we have a pinch hitter. We've got Bill Benysh, who is the, can I say former?
You can say former, still involved with the program.
He was the head coach of the Wabash soccer team, Wabash High School boys. He is now the former coach. His son is the head coach. I assume you're an accomplice?
Yeah, the official term is assistant coach, but my son calls me, this is a soccer term, the sporting director.
Oh, that is?
Sounds better.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm taking care of a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
Steve, you know what that's like,
No,
I'm sure. Where there's a million things that nobody sees that you do.
Yep.
And so in order to ease his transition to the position, I'm trying to take care of a lot of that stuff for him. And he does the planning practices. He's going to be, running the games and stuff like that. I will be there. I do some one-on-one coaching with kids, but it's largely the stuff that nobody sees that you do that is sometimes really draining, Yeah. So yesterday I was out getting ready to mark the field, paint the field at LH Carpenter. One of those jobs that needs to be done. And,
Bill had me doing that stuff all the time.
yeah.
You want to talk about somebody that was horrible with lines. Absolutely
You
horrible.
still have that picture? You still have that
I do. I probably can't get to it. We call Luke, his son, the Picasso of field liners.
Was he doing it poorly on purpose?
No. Here and in his defense, of course, Rick is real anal about stuff. He's got the painter and he's going along and he's looking down and he's trying to follow it, and all of a sudden he'll get about halfway and look up, and then
I have a focus problem.
Yeah.
This is before Adderall.
One of the things they don't tell you, like when you're getting old and you're painting lines, is that like you have the bifocal glasses, and
Yes, I had those too.
you get a little dizzy, like looking down all the time.
Yeah, it was not my calling.
See, I was a farm kid, and my dad taught me at like 10 years old, you look at the end of the field. You look at the farthest point and don't move from that, and you'll be straight.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to, focus down here,
Yeah.
you got no hope.
And no
A
focus.
little late for that advice.
Well, speaking of farming and keeping the road straight, Dad, who was captain in the Army in World War II, he and my brothers took orders. And he would say pick out a tree or something like that. But we were planting tobacco, southern Indiana.
Never done that.
So you don't.
Well, the old farm story is you get more beans or corn in a crooked road than you do a straight one, right?
Right, of course. But anyway, so there we go. There we are, boys. We are on the air.
We on.
We've been wasting our breath this whole time.
Hi, Mom.
No, it's about 5. There's like a delay. So anyway, Bill's pinch hitting today because Courtney and Jordan Delton had an issue, couldn't be here today. They will be along in a month or two. And Teresa Galley, whose son is a soccer kid and played for Bill, said, "Why don't you call Bill Benysh and see if you can come and talk? So you owe this to her."
Well, I hope I fill the seat reasonably well.
You're fine.
You
And again,
great.
I'm gonna preface this by saying, Jeff Hobson was gonna try to be here, but he couldn't either. So if you get to a point where you're done, you're done. Trust me, we got plenty of things we can
Grab
talk
my bag and leave.
Yeah. I just don't want you to feel like you've got to carry this or whatever. That's not it.
But I appreciate the Wabash History Museum for the massive swag bag that I got.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there'll be more. There'll be more. They're good at it. But anyway, so let's start from the beginning. I know you and Jim were talking earlier, but where did soccer come into your life?
Oh boy. I have been involved in soccer in one way or another for probably 50 years.
Wow.
I grew up in Southern Ohio. The community that I grew up in is a town called Centerville.
Oh, my brother lives in Lancaster.
Yeah. So Centerville is just south of Dayton.
Mhm.
It is one of what I think of as like the soccer hubs of the state of Ohio. When we moved to Centerville, I was in second grade, and by third grade I started playing soccer, and continued to play soccer through college, and then when I graduated, played recreationally. But where it really clicked for me was not far from where I grew up. There was a training center for a company called NCR. You're probably familiar with National Cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
They brought in guys from all over the world to be trained there. It was a dormitory type of experience for them, and the one thing that these guys from all over the world had in common was that they played soccer. And so there was a soccer field at the facility, and this was only a couple miles from my house. And we would go over and watch them play their pickup games.
Yeah.
And that kind of taught me that like this may not be something that everybody does all around the United States, but it's something that people do all around the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really gave me an international perspective at a really young age. I was 10 maybe, and when we started going over there to watch these games, and these guys were tremendous soccer players. As far as I was concerned, they could have been professional soccer players at seeing them at 10 years old,
Right.
and much better than anything I had ever seen among Americans. And just seeing that and being really inspired by that, kind of opened my eyes to the world game and the fact that there are places all over the world. When I got to high school and ESPN came up and all this stuff, every once in a while you'd be able to pick up an international match. Some team that is in England, some team that's in Germany that's playing, and every once in a while you'd be able to watch one of those, and we would try to catch those, me and my high school buddies. And then when we got to college, I remember the World Cup, watching the World Cup, and having played college soccer and being able to hang out with guys from Mexico or Panama that I played with in college, and watch the World Cup with them and their passion for the game. It's really inspiring. And so it's always been something that's been really important to me. I just love the global aspect of the sport. I love the fact that it doesn't just come down to one guy. You can't just have one guy who's phenomenal and it makes things happen for you.
Team.
Yeah, you have to have a team. And so the different styles of play that we see in other parts of the world is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
The Colombians have a style, and the Brazilians have a style. The Germans
See, I
have
would
a
not
style.
know any. I would not know any of that.
Yeah, and so when you watch things like the World Cup, some teams are super creative, and some teams really try to control the game and lock it down and try to stop you from doing anything. Other teams only want to counterattack. Some teams want to possess the ball the entire game. So when you watch these different strategies in play, it's a lot like a chess match at that level, because then it becomes less like your physicality than it is like who's playing the smarter game against this opponent.
Yeah.
So,
They the Chays moved in from Laos. They floated down the Mekong River, lived in a tent for a couple of years, and ended up here in Wabash, Indiana. And I guess somebody in town, I can't remember who, gave them a basketball. And they're over at St. B and thought, here's a basketball. What'd they do? They put her down on the ground, baby, and played some soccer. So, I mean, they had learned that in their home country. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I'm always excited when we get an exchange student at Wabash High School.
Yeah.
Because a real good chance that this kid's a soccer player,
Yeah, right.
one form or another. We had a guy come from Spain several years ago. It must have been about 2018. And he showed up the first day of practice, and I was watching him warm up. I'm like, hey man, this guy's a player. And I talked to him a little bit during practice, and he said, yeah, I'm not very good. I don't play. I don't start for my club. I'm a bench player. He said I have to actually play on the reserves.
And you said,
And
well,
I
guess
said-
what?
Yeah.
You're a star.
You just got promoted, baby.
Son.
To you, he was Pele.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, you're a starter, and you may well be all conference.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
So it's just a different culture, right? You know, the kids here in Indiana, most of them grow up playing basketball in one form or another. Many of them will play baseball here in Wabash in particular. And you take one of these kids who's grown up playing a sport, you know, his or her entire life, and you put them in another location where that sport isn't, they become superstars.
Yeah.
The thing I've always admired about what you have done, and like I said, I am not a soccer person by any means, but not only were you the head coach, but you established the program from the start, because there was no Wabash High School soccer, boys or girls. Talk about that a little.
Well, 2016 is when we started this team. It still seems pretty recent if you think about the
Cubs
history.
won the World Series that year.
There you go. Seems like yesterday.
Now you're in real trouble.
And so, 2016, we had an opportunity with our AD at the time. He, I guess, was talking to some of the ADs around the conference and wanted to get soccer started at Wabash. My son happened to be a sophomore when this all started getting going. We had some kids that I had coached and that Jeff Hobson had coached for years through the travel teams. And I said, he came, he's like, can we put together a team? Like, yeah, I can name you 10 guys right now who would come out and play, and we can get some others. And so, yeah, that was basically starting from nothing. And I remember our first call-out meeting, and we had a room of about 20 guys there, and I was really encouraged. And I said, you know, and some of them hadn't played soccer since Y League, you know, so it had been years.
But they played.
But they had played some. But they were, you know, the kids were always apprehensive about their skills and how they're going to present to other people. Like, they're very self-conscious. They don't want to look bad at something. And we really talked to these guys about, like, you know, some of you are going to be soccer players right now, and some of you are going to be soccer players in 2 years or 3 years. But all I'm asking is that you commit to sticking around. And if you commit to sticking around, we will turn you into soccer players. And so that was really the vision that we had. We weren't forming a soccer team. We were trying to form a program. Yeah. And the program is about having kids come back year after year after year. Right. And each year they're incrementally better. Some kids start out pretty good. Some kids, it takes them 2 or 3 years to get good. And there were kids that were sitting in those rooms who played for us for 4 years and turned out to be dynamite soccer players. But they weren't dynamite first year, second year, third year they started to warm up, and then by the time they were in their 4th year, they were good. And that's really the mindset I have tried to have, is to develop 3-year, 4-year soccer players. We're still grabbing guys out of the hallways. If a guy wants to come out and play for one season,
you and I've been there.
Yeah. Guy wants to come out and play for one season, by gosh, we can't afford to tell him no.
Right.
I had that happen to me in college.
Yeah.
At Huntington.
They asked you to play soccer?
It was, yeah. The soccer coach comes up to me. He'd seen me playing independent basketball leagues and things, and he says, why don't you come out for soccer? I'm like, I know nothing about soccer. He goes, doesn't matter. We'll teach you. I said, if you're an athlete, we can teach you. And that was his theory. I didn't play.
You know, when I taught at Oak Hill for 10 years and then came to White's, taught not for student, not because I was broken the law or anything.
Yeah. Clarify that.
They didn't catch me when I was younger. But,
plead the fifth.
But I remember Larry Vaughn. We played a lot of soccer and PE, and of course they had a program, and they were good. And those kids, they needed direction and things, to get their life back on track. And I can tell you right now, soccer was a huge tool, because that would be one of the first sports you'd have of the year. Whites played, soccer in place of football, because we never knew how many we were going to have and all that kind of stuff. But boy, I mean, they took to that, and that was a huge tool for us there as working at White's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and another thing, when you mentioned about how you set up your program, that was another thing the soccer coach did at Huntington. Huntington was known for baseball, mostly in those days. And he took those same baseball players, got them out for soccer, and they were pretty darn good.
Yeah, when you have a kid who's used to being in athletics, it's always going to be a shorter transition for that kid. And so, yeah, we started out 10 years ago with a hodgepodge. We had some guys who had some good experience. We had guys who just didn't know the goal from the sideline. And
I know one of those.
And you try to set reasonable expectations for the guys. Like, we're not gonna win a lot of games, and you try to, so that they don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be on a team that's winning every game, then you're already really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are legacy programs like Oak Hill, who's been around for a long time, and they always are deep. They always field a lot of guys, and we try to keep teams like that on our schedule. We're not avoiding that type of matchup.
Right.
Northwestern is in the conference now. They're a legacy program. These are teams that have won multiple sectionals. Manchester's a legacy program, and they're never hurting for quality players. And so every time we play them, we know that it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
And
So, like any other sport, when you got to a point, and I'm jumping ahead, and I don't mean to, we can back up, but when you got to a point where you were competitive with Oak Hill, or you were able to beat a Manchester, that had to be a huge step.
Some of my landmark experiences in coaching over these years, our games against Manchester, even games we lost that we played really well in. Games against Oak Hill, we tied Oak Hill a couple of years ago, and we walked off like we had won the championship, because that is a team that is always a measuring stick. You measure how good you are by how you play against quality teams. We can play teams that are notoriously bad, and if we do well against them, okay, great, we notch that up. That's a win. We get a quality loss against a good program, and we can walk away with our heads held high and say, look, we measured up.
Yeah.
We measured up really well against this team.
But at the same time, I'm stepping back here. At the same time, you didn't just build a program, you had to establish one.
Right.
That's hard.
Yeah, and I was really fortunate that I had worked with Jeff Hobson for a couple of seasons with his travel team. My son played for him, and so I coached with him as his assistant, and I got to see some of the things that Jeff was doing. Jeff's had this program for a long time, and he's tireless in keeping this program going.
And every year he says he's done.
I know. Every year
and he would have been here today, but he's having knee replacement, and today was his consultation.
Yeah.
So we will get the two of you together on
Yeah.
this at some point.
Yeah, and Jeff's a great guy, and he knew me from my coaching experience with rec soccer with the YMCA, and he knew my kids, and he knew that I know something. I know some things.
I can tell you this: if I'd have known you better back then, I'd have just turned, as the Y Sports director, I'd have just turned the soccer program over to you. But that's how stupid I was. I didn't know. But anyway.
Well, and anytime you do something like that, where you are going to put yourself into a program, you want to make sure that you don't sell it short. And we've all coached, and we've all coached with people who are there for like a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, and their approach is very different from the guys who we have seen, guys and girls that we see year after year after year. And the folks, even if they're not winning a bunch of games, this is their 10th season of coaching. They have a very different approach, and it is one that is long term, and it's long range, and you're there for the game, not necessarily there to win championships.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been fortunate to have some really good seasons. We've had some seasons where we struggled. These last 2 years have been difficult for us, but we're there for the game because there's an inherent love to the sport that you really appreciate. So, Steve has probably a really deep appreciation of basketball and an actual love for it and a love for coaching it.
Yeah.
And that's why that's hard to find.
Yeah,
in
you have
people.
to have that. I would assume that starting a program like that, you've got kids that may or may not have ever played soccer. How important was it for you to, and how did you make it fun for them?
In a more casual setting, it's a lot of banter, right? You're chatting kids up, you're making jokes. People make mistakes, and we just kind of laugh it off. And you don't try to make it punitive. There's no benefit in, hey, you screwed up, go run a lap.
Right.
In a team where
That's
you
what-
need every single kid,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Well, I was
Completely
getting at-
counterproductive.
And if a kid, if a
that
kid's
takes
like,
a different type of approach as a coach.
Right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
you don't want to have a kid walking home from soccer practice to the house and mom, dad says, "How was practice?" "Oh, it's awful."
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You want a kid to come home from practice and say, "That was really fun. I want to come back and do it again." We've had kids join us, as juniors and seniors for just one season, and the universal comment is, "This is a lot of fun. And so we try to keep it as light as possible.
Right.
And whether it's making jokes during warm-ups or just trying to keep the atmosphere positive, but also joking around.
But once you start winning, once you start getting good, do you change that approach as a coach?
We did. We had several years there in the middle of our tenure where we were really successful, and so we were able to kind of split things up. And we had our developmental group where you keep it light, keep it fun, and then we had our more dedicated and experienced group,
Interesting.
and we were pushing those kids.
Yeah.
And so there was a kind of a duality to the approach. When you have our peak number of players that we had was 34.
I know when that was.
Yeah, and we looked like when we show up at games, we looked like Oak Hill showing up because they show up with two teams basically, and it was really a great luxury, and COVID threw a wrench in it.
Yes.
And we are still recovering from the setback of COVID.
That's kind of amazing to me. You get that many kids. I help coach baseball at Eastbrook, and Chris Holslider's our head coach, runs a wonderful program. He was at Southwood for a few years, but we can't get 34 kids out for baseball. Around here, kids do that. Forever.
We couldn't get 30. We couldn't get 30 kids out at Wabash after all those years and all that tradition.
Yeah.
That's.
You're doing something right.
Yeah, well, COVID really threw a wrench in that for us, and it disrupted our feeder. So we had 2 seasons really with no middle school program. The year that everything shut down, no program at all.
The only I knew that was going to happen from the standpoint of the Y when I was still the director, and we after they kind of lifted the restrictions, we tried to have a short season for what we call spring soccer. It's actually in the summer, and we were able to do that. But people were scared. Some parents, diehards. No, we're not going to do this. We'll wait till fall and see what happens. That had to hurt.
Yeah, you disrupt the pipeline, and we're to the point now where I feel like we are getting back online with that. We've got a good group of incoming 9th graders. I'm really excited
There's
about
some
that.
athletes there.
Yeah,
All sports.
and so we're really excited about those guys coming. There's a good group of 7th graders, but it's been a reset, and so Jeff Galley can tell you a couple of years ago we were on the ropes. When Will was playing, there were 2 seasons there where we were just fighting to get kids to come out and play, and it got to a point, and this is telling stories on myself, but I told the guys, like, if we don't have 11 guys at practice next Monday, we're not having a season.
I mean, you probably didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I'm gonna start canceling games, and fortunately we had that magic number. We had 11, and then we got 13, and then we got 14, and but you know, it's you get to that desperate point where you're looking at these games coming down, and you're like, okay, you have to have so many games, so many practices before you can play.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that first game, and like, okay, this is my deadline. I have to have guys here so they can get the practices to play.
Yeah.
And I know,
And that's all COVID fallout.
I can remember outdoor was obviously, but indoor, those 2 or 3 winters before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
where all of a sudden there was talent. And it wasn't just Wabash kids, but most of them were. And I'm sitting there, my wife and I are sitting there with our son and his wife, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, Benysh is gonna love this. And I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking you already knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But those kids, my gosh, were they athletes.
Yeah.
And for them, I don't know from a coaching standpoint, but because I don't know that much about soccer, but based on what I could see during the indoor game, say for instance, the 2 France boys,
Mm-hmm.
they would kick it against the wall as a pass to themselves because you could.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just that. I mean, I understand that doesn't always translate to the outdoor game, but we all knew they could play, and wasn't that kind of your heyday for us?
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. With the France boys, with Will Galley, Andrew Dinkins played for us.
Mm-hmm.
We had a real solid crew. I'm sure I'm overlooking some guys, but we had a real solid crew basically from 2018 through about 2022, 23 maybe. Really great group of guys where we were able to really build success upon success upon success. We culminated with that sectional win, with the conference win. Oh, it was huge. We're playing in the small school sectional. You're getting all these private schools, and that's a whole other deal.
Yeah, we know.
And to win that sectional against that opposition, it was glorious, and we just felt like we were on top of the world. And after that sectional, we had a little bit of a step back. We still had some good success, but then things started to taper off as that pipeline had dried up for us of players. So
that was the same timeline that we had. Coach Holly had in baseball. We had like 2 classes in a row, and they were really good. And COVID just
that class of 2020 was loaded with really great talent across the board at Wabash High School. You think about it, the baseball team was phenomenal. The soccer team,
and some of those kids were soccer kids.
Yeah, soccer team was great. Basketball team had a really great season that year. We were just that class of 2020, and even in 2019, they really carried Wabash High School sports. And when that group graduated, we began to try to piece things together, and we still had a lot of momentum and a lot of talent, so we were able to have a couple more good years after that. But
the program itself, once you were establishing it, you guys were nomads. I mean, you were practicing and playing some at the Field of Dreams, and we were trying to do some different things out there as far as field dimensions and getting that prepared for you. You and I were trying. You and I are chasing nets and all kinds of stuff, trying to get all this done. And then you're at Carpenter.
Yep.
And I know you were practicing other places, and then really once Alumni Field was turfed, that I know it helped the athletic directors with the scheduling, but at the same time it concentrated it because now you're dealing with 2 different sports, 2 different genders, and middle school and high school at the same time. Talk about that. That had to be hard.
Yeah, we're fortunate that LH Carpenter is still ours. I mean, we still have that available to us. And in fact, we have occasionally played games out there still when there's a conflict with football. Football can't play anywhere else. They have to have alumni.
Yeah,
so when there's a JV game or a middle school game, we're going to get pumped. But yeah, the scheduling is a bit of a nightmare, and fortunately, that's not my nightmare.
Exactly.
But yeah, that field is fantastic, and most schools that are going that direction, moving soccer onto the turf. The turf game is a little different than the grass game.
Oh, yeah.
But the scheduling is largely an athletic director's problem.
I know Dry Stone does.
It does. It does, and
But at least it doesn't have cancellations.
yeah, and I know that he uses LH Carpenter, as a fallback plan for soccer. We have a scoreboard out there. It's a full-size regulation field. It doesn't get torn up quite as much as many grass fields do because it doesn't get used for a lot of games. So we use it for practice. So the girls and us, we will practice at the same time. And one of us will be at LHC, and one of us will be at alumni.
Also, that field from an agronomy standpoint, notice that
Good
word right
word.
there? Oh, you've got the shade from the west at the
Yep.
hottest part of the day.
Yep.
That helps.
Yeah, that is actually something that we think about.
I bet.
But yeah, we were fortunate that superintendent and the facilities director kind of saw that I was requesting that we could use that to play soccer, and they kind of saw that as a way to get it done. They came out and resurfaced that entire field. I don't know if you were out there,
I
but
remember
they
that.
basically scraped everything off the top and crowned it in the middle so that it water flows to the north and south, doesn't flow to the neighbors, and it's in really great shape. We had a parent come out with a big heavy duty construction roller a couple of years ago and rolled it so it's super smooth. It's a really great field, and it's a blessing for us to have that. Alumni has its advantages. The big disadvantage of playing on turf is it's hot.
Oh,
Tell me, I need to know what you said that there's a difference between the turf game and the grass game.
Yep.
Explain that to me.
Okay, so probably not such a huge difference for a sport like football, but where the ball rolls across the ground, right?
Yeah.
In soccer, on a turf field, the ball will roll forever.
Really?
And so you kind of have to change your strategies when you're
Okay.
playing on that. So a game where maybe you will kick a ball 40 yards up to a player. If that player doesn't stop that ball, he ain't catching it. It's not catching up to it. It's rolling out of bounds. On the grass field, you kick that ball, and it's going to die in about 10, 15 yards, so your player can catch up to something like that. And different places will mow their grass at different heights. We usually try to keep ours relatively short. We played on a couple of fields last year where the grass was very tall and very thick. And
let me guess, their athletes weren't as fast as yours. I mean, this is like baseball, right? If I'm going to set up the infield,
Yep.
whether I've got fast guys or slow
Yep.
guys, okay.
yeah, you want that ball to die, that grass grow another inch. And so there's some differences to that. So the field at Alumni is, we play on 120 yards of length. The 120 yards is end zone to end zone, right? The field at LH Carpenter is 110 yards in length, but it plays even shorter because of the
grass.
speed
Yeah,
of the
makes
ball.
sense.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit different strategically, as far as how do you play. Teams who play fast, they love playing on turf.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, speed.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago when we hosted sectional, Culver Academy came down, and we know Culver Academy. They're premium, right? We watched those guys play, and it was. Were you at that game? Yeah. Best high school soccer team you've seen?
Yeah.
There are probably better ones around, and they don't win state championship every year, but they were quick. They moved the ball so fast, and they broke down quality opponents. You know, I forget which bishop they were playing out of Fort Wayne that I watched. Lures or Dwenger, one of the two.
University of Bishop Lewis.
And that is a quality Fort Wayne team. And Culver basically just wore them out. After the first half, they couldn't keep up because Culver was moving the ball so well. And they love playing on a turf field because if you're quick and you're accurate and you can move the ball wherever you want it, that is the ideal conditions for them. And that really helps them. For a team like us, who are now kind of in the middling range, we want to slow it down. We want to slow them down a little bit because it gives us a little bit more time to react. So in soccer, every time you move the ball, you got to react. It's like basketball, right? Every time the ball moves, you got to move.
Yeah.
And there's tremendous distances that we can cover. You know, in basketball, it's how wide is the court?
Shoot, I don't know. Pretty darn wide.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah.
And it's even a heck of a lot longer, too.
Right. But even you can kick a soccer ball farther than that
Yeah.
distance. And so we're looking to cover large distances. And so,
Right.
you know, a big strategy in soccer
Even
is
with the new
Yeah.
moving the ball from one side of the field to the other, and that can be a 50-yard swing. And so you got to make the opposition recover, and everything that you do to make the defense react, everything that you can do to make the defense have to change what they're doing because of what you did, is an opportunity.
When you talk about that, I think of anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
And in coaching basketball and baseball in different levels, to me, that's the one thing that's so hard to teach a kid, to anticipate. Sounds like you need to anticipate. You can't kick it to the guy where he's at. You've got to kick it to where you want him to go. Just explain that a little bit. How?
So we can kind of think of a model, a mental model, a cognitive model of interiority and exteriority. And so to a certain extent, beginning players are entirely inside their own heads. They're always trying to think about, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? Oh, you know, if the ball comes to me. And if we can get them to actually think about 3 seconds ahead, and think about, okay, based on this situation that's happening exteriorly to me, I can predict what's going to happen and predict what I need to do before anything unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is high level thinking. And you have to have your skills, your individual skills, and you will have seen this in baseball and in basketball the same. You have to have your individual skills to a level where they are almost unthinking.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to think to dribble. You don't have to think really to pass. You don't have to think to throw the ball. All these things are happening almost automatically for you, so that then you can evolve into, I can now read the game and see where the opportunities are, or see how maybe if I move here, move from point A to point B, it opens up the space I just vacated for my teammate.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And those are the higher order thinking things, and we call it soccer IQ. It's probably a basketball IQ or baseball IQ. Those are the things that it takes years to develop. So if we get a guy who comes out and plays for one season, great. We know what we can do with you. We get that guy for the second season, he knows a few more things. By the time we get that guy for the fourth season, there's the potential, if they put in the work, to get to that place where they can begin to think exteriorly about the game instead of inside. Like, what am I doing? It's like, what's happening outside? What can I do for my teammate here? And that takes a while to develop. We get a kid like Will Galley, who's been playing for a long time. His soccer IQ is super high.
That leads me to my next question along those lines. I don't know how many times I would drive by alumni going here or there or whatever, and there's Will and Aiden and Andrew Dinkins and 2 or 3 others, and maybe only 3 or 4. And that's the kind of stuff they were doing, I'm asking?
Yeah, and again, they're obviously getting their skills squared away to the point where they can begin to do things in practice. Like, if you can't do it in practice, you're not doing it in the game, right? So when I begin to see them move off the ball appropriately in practice, and that's one of the big things we preach is, like, when you spend 98% of the game without the ball.
Yeah.
What are you doing during that time? And if you're doing that intelligently in practice, then you're a step away from being able to do it in the game. And so these are guys who are challenging themselves. And I was that guy when I was a kid. I was that guy, in 7th grade and 8th grade, who, for lack of anything better to do, I would go out and practice soccer. And it turned me from a nobody soccer player. When I came to my 8th grade year, I was pretty good. When I came to my freshman year, I was the best guy on my team, because I put in that effort. And I realized, like, most people aren't putting in that effort. Most people aren't putting in that work.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to put in that work, that 20% more work than everybody else.
So I'm assuming that is the, excuse me.
Oh, you're right.
I'm assuming that is the equivalent of you two, as well as three of you especially, going out and shooting free throws.
Mm-hmm.
After free throw, and my brother and I would bounce baseballs off of a brick wall all day long.
Yeah.
Trying to get better, trying to do this, that's the
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the kids that commit to doing that are the best players on the team.
So if I want to help you recruit.
Fabulous.
Let's talk about it. Seriously. If I'm a kid whose parents hear this or whatever, and I get to watch it, what do you look for? What's most important? And even kids who've never played, if they're a little tentative about coming out, they could go out here in their yard and work on their own skills. What do they need to work on? What do you want to see out of kids?
The one thing that a kid can do that is super easy is what we call wall work, and it's just kicking the ball up against the wall and then receiving it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't consistently make a pass of 20 yards to a teammate, every time you touch the ball, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be afraid that you're going to mess it up. And that fear slows you down.
because you're thinking too much.
You're thinking too much. You're afraid, oh man, and some kids don't even want the ball because they're afraid that they'll screw it up, and then everybody's going to see them screw it up. And so wall work is really the most fundamental and valuable thing that a young player can do developmentally, and it's just kicking a ball up against the wall. It's like Bill throwing the ball up against the wall, because we say the wall doesn't lie, right? If you throw a ball up against the wall, you kick a ball up against the wall, and you don't do it properly, it's going to give you back what you gave it. Mm-hmm. You hit it too soft, it's going to come back short. You hit it too hard, it's going to go past you. If you hit it at an angle, it's going to go off, and at that angle, you're going to have to chase it down. The wall doesn't lie. And so it gives you instantaneous feedback on what you're doing. And there are so many thousands and thousands of videos out there of real soccer players, professional or even college level players who video their wall workouts or their dribbling workouts. Those are the key things that a guy can do on his own. And then there's just the part of building up your soccer IQ and knowing what is the right move, what is the right choice in each situation. And then when you get to practice with other people, then you try to do those things. So, 10,000 times on your own, 1,000 times in practice, 1 time in the game.
Putting in the work breeds confidence. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The knowledge of the fact that you're putting in the work, you're going to be a very confident player.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shortcuts. You've got to put in the work.
Well, and if you put in the work and then you get in the game and you're playing against the guys who might have been better than you last year,
right?
And suddenly you're competitive, or you're better. Mm-hmm. That's what happened to me when I realized these are the same kids I've been playing against for years, but now I'm better than they are.
Yeah,
you kept working at it.
I kept working, and it turned me into an individual summer workout guy, and that ended up with me playing in college.
Right.
Let me ask you, this is going to sound like a weird question, but Bill and I were talking beforehand. When we were kids, Major League Baseball would do things on Saturday, like they'd have Brooks Robinson, the best third baseman in baseball, give you technique, tell you had to throw from here and you had to throw from here. Today, as a high school assistant coach, I don't like for kids to watch major leaguers because they're so good. They're so far away from fundamentals. Kids can't do what the major leaguers can do. So if I want to come out for soccer, would it be good for me to watch professional soccer or not?
If only to develop an appreciation of the globalness of it. There's this whole soccer culture, right? You go to some place like Brazil, or you go any place in Europe, and the streets are filled on Saturdays and Sundays with people heading to the games or heading to the pubs to watch the games. And I subscribed to Peacock just so I could watch the Premier League. It's a global market. This Team World Cup that just
they're crazy,
happened.
aren't they? They're crazy.
Yeah, those teams that are in it, those teams that are in it, they have crazy loyal fans.
Yeah.
And they're gonna travel to these matches, and they're going to watch the games online, and the companies that are broadcasting are making billions of dollars, and because there's this whole fanaticism that comes along with it, and it's comparable to the NFL here in the States. There are Steelers fans who live 5 hours away from Pittsburgh, right? And they are rabid Steelers fans, and it's
like Nazca.
Yeah, there's just this whole subculture of soccer that's like that, and I think it's starting to grow here in the States. But watching the game, I'm pretty indiscriminate about what soccer I will watch. I do follow one Premier League side, but I will watch anything. If I'm going through the channels and I see the Sudan is playing Syria.
No, you don't watch that. You do not watch that.
I will stop and check it out for a little while.
Sudan versus Syria, you're going to watch it.
Women's European is going on right now. I will.
You are a fan.
Yeah. Watch Ireland play Norway. Sure, I got nothing in it.
So have you met Ted Lasso?
I'm not, but
isn't he a real guy?
You're an idiot.
I like it.
So if you're watching Syria against Sudan, this is a serious question. Are you looking for different styles at that point?
Yeah,
it's not.
Well, there are what are called patterns of play, right? And we don't in soccer have like set plays like you would have in football, where you call a play or two plays and you run this against that team. Like in basketball, sometimes you'll see the point guard call out some sort of play, right? I think my daughter probably did it for you at some point, and so everybody knows what they're supposed to do. In soccer, it's more we're going to do this passing pattern to see what the other team does, and if it opens something up, then we'll try to attack. And so you can see
this is becoming fascinating to me.
Well, so it's probably more of a coach. What do I want to say? An offense where you don't go from point A to point B, but you read. If this happens, then you go here. If that happens.
Yes. And you watch the NBA, like the Pacers this year, they played so fast. There weren't a whole lot of like set plays oftentimes.
Right.
It was fast break, and in the fast break, you're looking for where is the opportunity, and then you take advantage of the opportunity. And soccer is a lot like that. There will be stoppages in play sometimes for a corner kick or a penalty kick or something like that, and those things are scripted.
Right.
Okay, sure. That makes sense.
But in the general flow of play, it is okay. I have the ball here. My teammate should be there because he knows where he should be to help me out.
Right.
And then
if he's not there, would you kick it to this guy and then go fill that spot?
You can.
I mean,
you should. Ideally, you have multiple options on the soccer field because the defense wants to stay compact, the offense wants to be spread out, and so you should have multiple choices. You don't always. And at the professional game, they don't mishandle the soccer ball very much. But if you watch a high school game, it is very common.
Going through the channels, we'll go through in the evening and all of a sudden there's soccer, and Lisa and I just like to watch the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. They handle that ball, and then they'll kick that sucker several yards down, right at where it needs to be, and somebody's cutting it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an amazing game once you kind of see and have an appreciation for the skills those guys have.
Here's the question I've got, talking about the intricacies and the skills. When I watch my kids play at 10 years old, there's no contact, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody touches each other. They're kicking at the ball.
Yeah.
But when they took my kids' team to a college match to watch them play, talk about physical.
Oh.
They don't. It's like rebounding. You don't play the ball. I pound you, and then I go get it, right?
Yeah.
So how does that transition from little guys to?
Well, at least on the boys' side, I can speak to that. Girls are different. But girls' high school soccer is very physical, and and the boys, I would say their physicality is a little bit higher, and we can say that it's associated with some hormonal stuff that happens in teenagers. There's a lot of aggression, and there's a lot of I don't want to back down to this threat that goes on sometimes, and so there's retaliation and things, and so you try to get guys to play physical, but don't play dirty, right?
I've heard Mrs. or Coach Wright. I've heard Mrs. Wright chastise girls for not being physical enough.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're getting pushed off the ball, you're surrendering the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and that's bad. You don't want to do that. The physicality escalates with each level. I played high school, and in high school we played a pretty rough game. When I got to college, I realized that we were real nice to each other.
That's what I noticed.
Yeah, and even in practice, guys would rough you up in practice.
Yeah.
And if you complained about it, you never complained about it. But yeah, you just got used to being knocked around, and the refs will allow a certain amount of what should be called fouls. Because if you called everything that happened, just like basketball, you call everything that happens, there's no flow to the game.
Kind of like the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, and so and so if you're not whistling everything, then the refs have a really tough job. But you have to kind of make a decision as to at what point am I reining this in. And I've seen games spiral out of control, but I've seen other games where refs have done a really good job of managing the physicality of the game. And generally, if something looks dangerous, if it looks like somebody's going to get hurt, you can expect.
Well, I lied to you before this. I told you I had one soccer story. I've got two, and Rick will relate to this. My brother-in-law played in high school, and he has
Not
two,
this brother-in-law.
Well, yeah, and he had two very overprotective older sisters. Right, he could do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a soccer match. He's a good player, and some kid on the other team kicked him a couple times. Just did kind of dirty stuff and didn't get caught. Right. So next thing you know, they're all in the middle of the field. There's this scrum, and my brother-in-law is just pounding this kid, and the refs throw him out. Right? They give him a red card or whatever, and our wives are standing yelling, "No, you got the wrong kid! You got the wrong kid!" We're going, girls. They got the right guy. So I'm seeing it get out of control.
Yeah, and it's true in all sports. The refs are a godsend, and you can't expect them to protect your kid exclusively. And that's one of the things I've learned in coaching is to give the refs a lot more grace. And I don't want to say it's changed the outcomes of how our games have gone, but I feel like we've got a little benefit of the doubt, especially when the opponent, when their coach is losing his flipping mind, and I'm over there, saying, being very polite and asking questions. And
let's bend that a little bit, okay?
Like Beckham?
Yeah, like Beckham. I know Coach McClure's wife pretty well.
Uh-oh.
She's outspoken, and she's going to tell you and tell him exactly what she thinks.
And
I know
she
you
will.
Hmm?
Yes.
Yeah, I know your wife.
mm-hmm.
She never backs down, or
No,
at
she
least
doesn't.
not around me.
She doesn't.
How do you? I mean,
Oh.
man, I mean, she knows the game.
Yeah, you can't.
She's not watching.
We
She's not watching.
we see the same refs week in and week out, year in and year out. I have had refs say to me, we have a couple guys who probably reffed half of our games last year, and they're like, "Oh, it's a Wabash game. I'm always going to sign up for a Wabash game." And I'm like, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Oh, because you guys are good to us."
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, you're good to it. You don't yell at me." I'm like, "Well, I take a little pride in how I work with you guys, but I learned that you don't get anything by yelling at them."
No.
And I've seen the opposite be true, that you get calls against you because they're
yeah.
human beings,
Oh, yeah.
and they're working obviously, but they don't have a vested interest in who wins and who loses the game. Nobody's betting on high school soccer.
At least not yet.
What these guys do it for is the same reason that I do it, is that they love
They love the game.
the game.
Mhm.
And if they can participate in the product by making sure that the games happen and that they are officiated at least partially fairly, then
Yeah.
they're part of the experience. And so I feel like I'm on the same team as the refs because I'm about making soccer happen for the kids at Wabash High School.
Yeah. More times than not, it's counterproductive to get all worked up about the officiating. It just doesn't work out. It's not productive.
Yeah, and I've seen it. Where a ref has stopped the game, called both of us to the center of the field because the other guy's losing his mind, and he's explaining, look, I'm going to call this game the way I call it, and the other guy is still complaining about the calls, and once that dude storms off, I turn to the refs like, thank you, and I just walk back. We got every single call the rest of the game.
There you go.
There's 5 minutes left to go in the game, and we didn't get a whistle against us the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And
don't you think
they're human beings, and yelling at them from the bleachers, it just looks bad. And yelling at them from the sidelines looks worse.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, we all tell our kids, you don't do that. That's my job if anybody's going to do it. But still, they take on our personality, I think.
Yeah.
So as a coach, if you can preach all that you want, but if you're going to yell and scream, they're probably going to feed into it too.
Yeah.
Or at least get down about it. You just want to pump those kids up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I say, I'm about making sure that kids at Wabash High School get to play soccer. And if refs don't show up or they don't sign up for our games because we're nasty,
Good point.
then we don't
what?
get to have games.
Let's twist this again. Where I thought you were going to go with this when you were talking about the wives, let's twist the parents. Because you mentioned, you as a coach can do one thing. You got very little control over those parents.
I do.
And we want to do a whole show on this someday.
Yeah, and you've got an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage playing at alumni, at least they're away, and maybe the refs can't hear everything.
Yeah.
At LH Carpenter, they're right there on the field.
Well, let me tell you my other soccer story, and I know you'll appreciate this, and hopefully.
Well, you said you only had 2.
This is my second
Oh,
one.
okay.
My daughter was playing.
You might want to get comfortable.
No. You'll love this. My daughter was playing soccer with another girl, and they played all sports. And in the other sports, us fathers knew quite a bit about those sports, or thought we did, right? So the dad comes up to me one day and he says, you ever notice that our girls both smile the whole time they play soccer? I said, I really never noticed that. He goes, you ever notice they never do that when they're playing basketball or volleyball?
Because you don't know anything about soccer.
There you go. I asked him, I said, why do you think that is? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, what do you say on the way home when they play basketball? Well, you should have done this and you should have done that. If you could have just, but how do you go to, and you remember that time in the first half that, how do you can't talk to them. So I think they're smiling because they know they're not going to get a bunch of stuff on the way home, and they enjoy the game. Is that a fair?
I think that is true. Parents want the best for their kids, and that's the tension that we have with parents who want their kids to be top performers. Because oftentimes they don't know the strategies for how to get that out of their kids. Yeah. There's no training, right? We don't get trained to be parents. All we know is what we've experienced and maybe what we have occasionally seen or read in books somewhere, right? So we all walk into parenthood blind. And I remember saying to my wife, I'm surprised they let us walk out of the hospital with this thing. Because you just feel stupid all the time.
My wife swears she'll see a parent, at a restaurant or whatever, and you don't know the story, but she'll say there should be a guidebook that you have to know and be able to recite before you can have children. And I'm like, okay, dear, try that.
Yeah.
Bring that one.
We know that's not going to work. So, with parents, there's a little bit of a blessing with soccer in that a lot of the parents have very limited knowledge. Now, that's not to say that, that none of them do. There are people in this community with great soccer knowledge. The blessing of that is, parental ignorance. They will usually defer to the coach's knowledge of the subject, and I've been really lucky with that. I've only had maybe 1 or 2 parents who've come to me and complained about one thing or another. But generally speaking, we've been really fortunate with that. Now, do we hear them yelling sometimes from the sidelines when the kid takes a hard foul and there's no? Absolutely, we hear it. But we've been really lucky here at Wabash with our parents being supportive, and not really being too nasty to the refs, and hopefully we model good behavior on the sidelines for them. But yeah, that's always tension, because
Well, that's
mom,
my point
dad,
in
they're
bringing
always
it
going to
up.
look out for their kid.
In trying to help you recruit kids, if you want a sport to play where mom and dad probably aren't going to berate you all the way home,
There you go.
it's probably soccer, right? Because they don't know. I know.
Right. And we have a lot of fun. We have a good time, playing soccer, and it's a pretty entertaining experience across the board. Are we going to win every game? No, we're not going to win every game, but we're going to learn from the experience and try to be better. We take, in education, you talk about the growth mindset, right? You don't accept where you are as being static. It's not a fixed position. We can do things to always get better. And so you don't want to have this idea of like, I can't do this thing. I can't kick the ball with my left foot yet, right? That's what you want to throw
Like
in.
dribbling with your left.
Yeah,
hand.
and some kids will just have this idea of like, I don't have this skill now, I will never have this skill. And we try to battle that all the time. And
It's important.
yeah. And so I think that's what a lot of our players respond to. I feel like parents, if they stick with us for a couple of seasons, will see their kid develop, and hopefully get more confident and be able to do some tremendous things after a while. But if you were already good when you first showed up at soccer practice, you wouldn't need to practice.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
And again, in trying to help you recruit, and I know Jeff goes through this too. As the sports director at the YMCA for all those years, people would say, I'm trying to recruit coaches, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. I don't know anything about soccer. And my first thing would be, I would laugh and I would say, hey, they're 4-year-olds. How hard can it be? And give them a little set of guidelines and they run with it. But then all of a sudden, I've got people who were in that boat 2 years before, and now they're coaching 1st and 2nd grade, and they're doing some of the things that you just talked about.
Yeah.
That's personal growth for the kids, but it's also personal growth for the parents as coaches.
Yeah.
And it just kept going.
And that's the nice thing about, again, adults that stick around, right? Adults have the ability to develop and grow. I'm not the same coach I was 10 years ago. That's for darn sure. And I know as a player, I was hyper competitive. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to knock guys down. I wanted to play very physically, because that was what had worked for me. And when I got into coaching the little kids, I learned it didn't matter how good I was as a soccer player. Like, my ability to kick the ball had nothing to do with their ability to kick the ball. And so I began to develop my skills of working with kids in that regard. I've been teaching high school for years, but teaching elementary kids how to play soccer, teaching middle school kids how to play soccer. That's a different age group, and each developmental level requires a different approach, a different set of strategies.
Right. Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
You and I have known each other for several years.
Oh yeah, decades.
I've known these guys forever. I know what they're about. One of the first times, you and I knew each other. You're a science teacher. From what I understand, you're a pretty good one. But I'm thinking, soccer program. And you coached, in the Y League and with Jeff and all this. And somebody said, well, we're starting a soccer program at Wabash, and Bill Benysh is going to be the coach. And my initial reaction was, please take this with a grain of salt. What the hell does he know about soccer? Until I saw you coach. You just don't look the type. Do you remember a guy by the name of Bob Carlin? Remember Bob?
I'm trying to.
His son was an athlete, caught for Northfield. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Anyway, my point is, it seems like there are, and I'm stereotyping, without trying to. There are guys who don't look like athletes don't look like soccer players. They're darn good ones in this community.
Oh yeah, yeah. Playing in the rec league, the adult league that the Y has helped sponsor for at least 15 years.
Right.
There are people here that are phenomenal.
Bob was one of the first guys in that.
Yeah.
He's no longer with us, but I could not believe he was that much of an athlete.
Yeah, just, I mean, going back to coaching philosophy, you know, it goes back to a bit of my educational philosophy, which has always been that knowledge of content is less important than knowledge of the kids and knowledge of how to reach the kids.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so, in terms of teaching chemistry for so long, did I espouse a love of chemistry?
One, she's a liar.
Hey, you spent a couple years with me.
Bill has a couple of his students who work here at the Y that have come in to be involved in this, and I love that.
Yeah, but you know, in terms of content, I've taught chemistry for over 30 years, and I'm not going to tell anything I haven't told the students. I have no love of chemistry. I don't go home and think about chemistry.
You think Hope does that?
No, not at all. Not at all. But the idea is to use that medium to teach other things, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel like I've got a pretty good rapport with a certain age group, a high school age group.
You're a very popular teacher.
I know how to talk to them. I think they think I'm entertaining.
Let me tell you
yes,
this. Let me tell you this, my friend. You're a whole lot more fun, from what I understand, than my chemistry teacher at Wabash 50 years ago.
I believe it.
Well, I'll tell you this, I could play for you for two reasons, and I just love this about what you're saying, and so many coaches are not this way. Number one, you're in it for the kids, not for yourself, okay? And number two, you don't come out here and say, this is my program, this is how we do it. This is high school and under, you don't get a recruit. Don't you have to adjust to the kids you have?
Absolutely. And every season, it's going to be a slightly different crop, right?
Exactly.
And so I've said this since my son played. You know, you play with the team that you have, and so we try to develop a formation, some strategies based on who we have, rather than I'm going to come in and say this is the way we play this game.
That's the way that man coaches. Right there, what you're talking about.
And in soccer, you have choices as to how you set your team up, and that's one of the things. It's a little bit like football in that you can decide how many defenders you want to have and how many attackers and how many guys you want to have and play in the middle. And some teams will play with just 3 guys in the back. Some teams will play with 5 guys in the back. And each of those setups has a slightly different set of strategies that accompanies it. And so we talk about formation. So we oftentimes play what's called a 4-3-3, which is 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 3 attackers. Last year we played a 3-5-2, which is 3 defenders, 5 in the middle, 2 up top. And then we got to a point where we're like, okay, that's not working, so we tweaked some other things. And so you try to look at the body of players that you have and say, okay, these guys are good fits for this, these guys are good fits for that, and then you try to come up with strategies to go along with that. And I'm going to make a confession here. My son is much better at this than I am.
That's where I was going to go.
I mean, Jeff, I don't know if you've talked to my son about soccer, but he understands tactics in a way that I don't understand. He's next level at that. And so that's why I'm confident about having him set up the team, run games, run practices, because he has a level of understanding of those areas. Now, does he have all the coaching techniques that I have? No. But he does understand a lot of the things about how the game works. And that really inspires a lot of confidence for me.
From the outside looking in, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, from the outside looking in, it's the best of both worlds for Aiden, because he can use his tactics, he can be aggressive, but he's got you to rely on that's going to be there for him to go, well, you know what, maybe you need to try this. Or
yeah, so we'll have a little conference before practice and just kind of talk about how things are going to go, and I say, okay, well, make sure we do this, make sure we do that, and he's on it, and that's nice. And I get to do a lot of the player management stuff. So I'm talking to individual players. I'm coaching them, but I'm also helping them like understand. Okay, you missed a practice. Let's talk about what the implications are of that, so that Aiden doesn't have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. He's dealing with.
Isn't there a real pride there for you?
I am enormously proud of that.
Good. Glad to hear that.
And not just for soccer, just like everything he does. I'm in awe of some of the skills that he has, and you couldn't be prouder. And the fact that he's decided to come back to Wabash is huge as well.
He's establishing himself already. He's got a nice position, a nice job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Schlimmer Brothers.
Schlimmer Brothers is.
He volunteers here at the museum. Mm-hmm. He loves the model trains upstairs. He's all over this.
Yeah.
And isn't it fun when you hear him saying things that you told him 20 years ago, and he's repeating it and using it?
Yeah.
In junior high, I was assistant to my best buddy for 10 years, and then my son came along and joined us, and he goes, "Hey, let's step back and let him be the head coach. Let's be the assistants." And I was just so proud of watching him do that. Well, then when he went to Eastbrook to be like pitching coach and JV coach, they asked me to come along and help him. Well, I do nothing with technique, with strategy, he's all that. Mm-hmm. I just help him maybe talk to this parent, or maybe, like you said, player stuff. But it's just so fun to sit back and watch them take it over.
Yeah.
And again, he's taken it to levels I didn't take it to.
Yeah.
All the years that I ran the Babe Ruth baseball program here in town and did all this stuff and all that, and was, I was the head man, the whatever, coaching and otherwise. When Rick asked me, and I'd done it before, when Rick asked me to be his assistant on the Wabash JV, and then we ended up both moving up to the varsity level, I found myself to, one, enjoy it more, and two, to be much better as an assistant, mm-hmm. as opposed to being the head guy. I was able to do what you were just talking about. I can take this kid and say, hey, here's something you could try. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Mm-hmm. This is what we need to do. Here's what you can try to do. And if you run into something, come talk to me.
Yeah. One of my son's best friends says, "Well, now, do you really coach, or do you suggest things?" I said, "No." I said, "I am here if he needs me. If he asks me a question, I'll answer it. You don't ask me many questions."
Yeah. I find myself rarely stepping in practice right now. I will occasionally step in to add something to what Aiden has said, or to reiterate something from earlier in practice, which is now very applicable to what we're doing. But generally speaking, it is his show, and I'm doing things on the sidelines, whether that's making sure that a kid has all their paperwork turned in, or right now I'm taking care of all the jerseys and uniform stuff.
The fun stuff.
Yeah. And when you're a head coach, that falls on your shoulders, and that's just something that you don't see. And if I wish, and this is if I'm going to live in a little bit of a dream world, I'm just wishing that some of these guys that I know from town, not going to name any names, but who have played soccer either for Wabash or for Jeff Hobson or outside of town somewhere, who have some institutional knowledge of playing soccer, if they would begin to make a commitment to soccer in the community here. And that doesn't mean you have to coach the little kids, but if that means you can come and be a volunteer for Jeff's program, my program up in Manchester, somewhere, just having those extra people with experience.
Because there's not near enough of it.
It's not near. No. There are people that have experience, but they don't want to commit to a full season or commit to multiple seasons. And that's really what this community needs as much as anything. And sometimes I'll look at a basketball practice at Wabash, and there'll be 8 adults in the practice, helping to run the practice. And I'm like, okay, these are people from the community who are helping Paul Wright out. Fantastic. I need that.
How many times were you and I accused of, how many coaches do you guys need?
As many as we can get.
They all helped.
as many as
Never
we
turn
can
it
get.
down.
Even if it's some guy who's just going to, show up to practice and go up to the scoreboard and run the scoreboard during the games, or even just be that person who is shagging balls behind the net so kids don't have to chase after them and miss out on practice because they're chasing down a ball.
Again, that's when they go home and mom says, "How was practice?" And they go, "Nah, it's boring." It's
Yeah.
not boring because you got those people to help.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and you don't have to be the best person in the world to have something to contribute to the community. Whether it's the soccer community, baseball community, or even the museum community.
How many times have kids that you've taught or coached come back at some point and said, "Gee, Mr. Benysh, I really appreciate what you do," because I know they have.
It happens multiple times a year, where a graduate will turn up at a practice or turn up at a game and seek me out or seek out one of the other coaches that we've had, and just kind of talk about like, oh, this was really fun, and it's great to have that. It's gratifying to have that, and this is what we do it. And I hope that some of these people have been so positively impacted by their experience that they will then share that love later down the road.
That's a great comment. If I'm a soccer guy out there listening, I want to come join your team. Our little coaching staff at Eastbrook's only been there maybe 4, 5, 6 years, but we've got 3 kids who've graduated in that time who've come back and they're on our staff. They're working with our junior high kids. And you talk about these kids looking up to them, and knowing they
Yeah.
that
You've
just
had
something
that.
like that.
You've had a bunch of those guys.
Yeah. And it's a huge difference maker. And they may feel like they don't have that much to contribute, but they do.
Yeah.
Oh,
They do.
You
Just
know,
the very presence of being there.
I walked away as one of Jack Holly's assistants, longtime assistants. This would be the end of the 4th year that I haven't coached. And one of the reasons that I decided to do so is because of Kyle Kelsheimer, who's a teacher and now a coach at the school. I coached him from the time he was 7 or 8 all the way through basketball and baseball. But it's kids like him, Chandler Jones, I can name a number of them. I knew when I decided that I'd had enough that I was figuratively leaving that program with Jack in good hands. And that's where you're at with Aiden, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm in that transition phase of my life where I'm going to be transitioning out of teaching, and whether I keep coaching or not is still an open question. But I want to have confidence that this program that I helped start, that I helped grow, doesn't just dry up or blow away.
Yeah, that's literal. You did that.
Yeah. And I don't want to like, look on Facebook and see, oh, it's no soccer this season, and you see it through IHSAA. Teams looking for games because other teams have canceled their season, and we got dropped by a team this year, and the only reason that I can imagine that they dropped us is they canceled their season because we were traveling to them.
Yeah.
You don't cancel a home game. You might cancel an away game so you don't have to travel, but.
When we started this, in fact, we were standing out in the hallway. I told Bill after he got here, I said, "Look, you're pinch hitting for us. We appreciate it. We're really glad you're here. If you run out of wind and there's not enough to talk about or whatever, we can pick it up and run with it with a different subject or whatever." Here we are, an hour and 15 minutes later. My
All
friend.
right. I may not have hit a home run as a pinch hitter, but at least it was double, right?
No, it's great.
And how realistic was Breaking Bad?
Not very. How's that?
He couldn't have come up with that mixture.
It's conceivable. I mean, there's we're assuming that Walter White was a genius, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of the other parts of it probably probably not.
We needed to touch on his expertise a little
What,
bit.
you think this is my turn?
You don't even know what Breaking Bad is.
You're right, I know.
I knew it was over his head.
Way.
Walter White.
Okay, I'll Google him.
Google it. We could do a whole show with Bill on that.
Well, then we will.
Yeah,
have to go back and rewatch.
It's all
I'd have to go back and
chemistry.
rewatch it.
It's all chemistry.
Hey, I've got a document on my computer here where I just start putting things in that we talk about or think of, and I'm like, hope we're going to have Bill Benysh come in and do this, and then we're going to have Courtney and the Delks.
Oh yeah.
Have them come in.
Yeah.
We've got Alex's grandfather's going to come in and do some more stuff. I just keep putting these in and then calling in favors, so you're screwed.
You might have to do a favor for me now.
I
There you go.
Hey, before we leave, as part of the new county sports exhibit that is coming later this year here at the museum, we are happy to share the first annual Wabash County Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which will be Saturday, August 2nd at 3 p.m. at Market Street Grill's Ivy Room upstairs. There's your invitation, Bill. You can bring your lovely wife.
Am I getting to get in this year?
You might. You never know. The Wabash County Hall of Fame, or Sports Hall of Fame, was established last year as an initiative of the Wabash County Museum intended to preserve the history and tradition of superior athletics in our county, and that does obviously include soccer. The Hall of Fame seeks to highlight the past in order to ensure a promising future through the recognition of past athletes, coaches, administrators, philanthropists, and volunteers who have made significant contributions to sports here in Wabash County. Those selected to serve, that's my daughter, she can wait. Those selected to serve as models for future generations. We have done this and we've been very meticulous about it. The 2025 inaugural inductees who will be recognized in an exhibit here at the museum, in fact, as the crow flies, it's right here behind us, out in the other room. They will include from the pioneer era, which is 1860 to 1950. Some of these names might be familiar, some of them may not. Carl W. Burt, L.H. Carpenter, Glenn Kuhlman, Gus DeRay, Bob Jellybean Jones, Bill Milner, W.C. Mills, Wabash George Mullen, who was a baseball player, Chris Schenkel, Raymond Dutch Struck, and Billy Tom. In the contemporary group, Dr. Steve Offeld, B.J. Cantrell, Dave Fulkerson, Robin Gratz, Stan Leland, Clyde Lavellette, Michelle Melzoni, Chris Rude, and Joe and John Ross. And thanks, Coach, for getting me their addresses.
No problem.
From the modern era, 2001 to the present, Jared Cordes, Mike Doc Emmerich, Tom Finnicle, Dan Ford, and Kaylee Hensley. The public is encouraged to attend the reception, but we do need RSVPs if you're interested in coming to that. Those are required and need to be made by July 25th. To RSVP, please reach out to the museum by phone at 563-9070 or send an email to me at bbarrows@wabashmuseum.org. We're looking to expand this as we go, and I think this is going to be awesome. So, I just wanted you to be in on that. That's all right.
Thank you.
Anything else, boys? Any comments about soccer or the Hall of Fame or whatever?
Very informative for me. I learned a lot. Bill.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we'll do this again next month. The subject matter is a little up in the air because I've got to get with a guy who told me he would do it August or September, so it'll be one or the other. So, thank you for coming on with us today. Thanks for watching, and Bill, we'll see you down the road also.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.